Okay, everybody. Hello and welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. We are now live with our friends on TikTok, and we're live on all of our other formats. We certainly do appreciate you guys being here. And hello, happy Friday to you. Hopefully you're having a great Friday wherever you are in this beautiful, beautiful world. Yeah, it's Friday. It is Friday. My goodness gracious, I am ready for it. Let me tell you, I am ready for. I'm ready for the weekend. I don't know about you guys, but let's go. You know, we were jamming behind the scenes. You guys, unfortunately, those of you on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble, and KGRDB Radio, we were jamming to some really top 40 music. It's called the Bee Gees. The song is called Tragedy. And I don't know if you've ever heard it, but it's definitely in the top 40. Maybe 70 years ago. But nonetheless, it should be in the top 40 all the time. Yeah, Jim, well, we have night prayer later on. Hold on one second. Okay, everybody, I'm Bishop James Long. Welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. First of all, if you want to go to my website, it's very simple. BishopJamesLong.com. There it is. It's rather simple. If you're really bored, have nothing else better to do, and you need something to put you to sleep, well, go to my website. It'll certainly take care of that. If you want to learn, by the way, as clergy, you know that I teach demonology and things of this nature. So I have classes that are free. That's right, free. They're free of charge. That means it doesn't cost you a penny. And anyway, if you want to take those classes, you certainly can. Just click on the class link. There are all 4 classes. It's all online. It's very detailed. There's a lot of information there. So just go to BishopJamesLong.com, click on the class link, and there you are. Now, also, if you want to know about the church's website, that's very simple too. That's usocc.org, usocc.org. And that is the website. By the way, we have night prayer coming up at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have it every Monday through Friday. And we want you to join us. A lot of people ask for prayer petitions, and we certainly want to include them. So here's what you need to do. If you want to go to the night prayer, just simply go to, well, here. I mean, it airs on TikTok. It airs on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble. And we usually start around 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, hello there, Ireland. And if you want us to pray for your prayer petitions, this is what you got to do. If you are on TikTok, you need to go to my profile, my TikTok profile. And you find the video that I posted about tonight's night prayer. You'll see it. It's very simple. It says, place your prayer requests in the comments for tonight's night prayer. Make sure you do that before 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You have 1 hour because we have to put them all together. That's for tonight and our night prayer, 10 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble, KGRDB Radio, you can go to usocc.org, and it says become a parishioner. Click here. Just click it. It takes you to the Facebook page. And then, of course, Judy Ann always posts a picture saying, place your prayer petitions in the comments. Make sure, again, you do that before 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, please, please, please put your first name in there because, I mean, if you have a username, Big Mama 12345, we're not going to say Big Mama wants to pray for this. That's not something we're going to do during night prayer. Just saying. You probably... just put sometimes the usernames are a little interesting and there are sometimes obviously. So just make sure you do that. Okay. Yeah. And for those of you on TikTok, we're going to try to leave the chat on for everybody. I prefer, well, let me just address this very quick question about Mary, even though that's not really the topic of the discussion. People always think that we pray to Mary as we pray to God. That actually would be, that's heresy. And that's not what the Catholic teach at all. Never has, never will. It's called intercessory prayers. In the same manner you ask me to pray for you, then we go to Mary and ask Mary to pray for us. That's it. It's as simple as that. There really is not any more complicated than that. And it's really not. And that's it. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to answer one more question because a lot of people are coming in attacking my faith and saying Jesus said, don't call anyone else on earth Father. Okay, please understand that the Roman Catholic Church didn't exist when Jesus actually said that. Jesus was actually speaking to the Pharisees. If you read scripture and you understand it in context, then you would understand what Jesus was saying. The Pharisees loved titles to lord it over the people. Jesus called them a brood of vipers. And he didn't like the Pharisees because the Pharisees would judge the Jewish people because they were not following all 613 laws on the holiness code, and yet they themselves were not following it either. and they were judging the Jewish people, saying, well, you're not following law 610. Well, neither were the Pharisees. So Jesus didn't like them. Jesus was speaking clearly to the Pharisees. If you look at the scripture, you will find that that's what he was referring to. Okay. Anyway, but what if I have to, I will put sub chat on, and then only subscribers will be able to chat to our guest. I would prefer everyone have the opportunity to speak to our special guest tonight. So the only thing that we ask is people be kind. That's it. Just be kind. All right. And by the way, Catholicism is Christianity. As a Catholic, I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. That's a Christian. That's what being Christian is about. Today, normally, we have we always have an interesting show on Friday nights. It's our supernatural. We talk about demonology, and we have all kinds of topics on Friday nights. Tonight is going to be very, very special. So I was going through TikTok, and I saw this this gentleman's TikTok, and I thought, wait a minute, this can't be. There's some type of what's going on here. And I was paying attention and listening, and I thought, okay, I've got to reach out to him and see if he'd be willing to be on a show. And he was very gracious, and I'm sure he gets lots of messages. Very kind, and responded, and we chat back and forth, and so he said, yeah. So let me tell you who's going to be our special guest for this evening, guys. This is rare. If you look, and you probably know this as well, but it's very rare that you're able to speak to anyone from North Korea or who lived in North Korea. That's rare in of itself. It is ultra rare to be able to speak to someone who escaped North Korea, not once, but twice. Now, that in of itself, in my opinion, Charles, who is our guest, I think he should be on CNN, Fox News. I think he should be on every platform there is, because this is such an ultra rare opportunity. And so I want to, let me give you a little introduction to our guests for this evening. Charles Ryu. He's 30 years old. He lives in the United States. He first escaped from North Korea in 2008 at the age of 14 years old. Imagine. And at 15, he was captured by the Chinese government and forcibly returned, where he was tortured and interrogated. He was then imprisoned in a North Korean detention center for defectors, forced to work up to 12 hours a day while surviving on 150 kernels of corn cow feed. After 9 months, Charles was released and sent to work in a coal mine. And then around the age of 17, he made his second and successful escape. And I am truly, so here's what I'm going to do. What we're going to do is we're going to bring Charles on, and then I'm going to just have him tell his story to all of you without interruption, no interruption. And then we're going to ask some questions together. And because I have a lot of questions that I'm sure you do as well. And so let's bring on our special guest. Hello there, Charles Ryu. How are you, buddy?
Hello, James. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's my honor to be here and share my story.
Well, I want to thank you so much, first of all, for your willingness to come on and chat with our community, and I mean, the bravery. My goodness gracious, it's truly. I watched a lot of your videos. He is on TikTok, and we're going to share. Matter of fact, I want to do this now. Let's tell everybody on TikTok, where can they find you?
You can actually go find my profile at Charles North Korea. That's one word, Charles North Korea.
There we are, Charles North Korea, everybody. So if you're on TikTok, make sure you follow Charles. So Charles, I don't want to interrupt. I just want you to tell us your story, and then we'll have lots of questions for you if that's okay.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Yes, so like you said, I have escaped North Korea twice. First time when I was 14 and second time when I was like 16 and a half. And let me tell you, when I was escaping North Korea for the first time, I did not know that I was escaping North Korea because my dad is half Chinese and he lived in China, but I was left back in North Korea. And so basically, my dad was born in North Korea as half Chinese, and he met my mother and had me. Therefore, it makes me quarter Chinese. But when I was 5, my dad abandoned me and my mother and left to China, and he never came back. And I lost my mother 6 years later from starvation. And from then on, I had to figure out basically how to live alone, begging for food from the strangers on the street and battling starvation and freezing winter weather. And and then when I was 14, my dad sent my half brother to rescue me. So that's how I got the opportunity to escape North Korea and go to China. So basically, my dad had arranged a broker who basically paid the North Korean guards, right? So in North Korea, there are guards everywhere alongside the border. It's called Yalu River, and there are guards every 100 meters and waiting for you to shoot, you. But my half brother and my dad arranged a broker. That broker paid off the guard, and eventually the broker told me that, okay, so if you were to cross this and go to so when nobody's looking, just go to the river, pretend that you're taking a bath, and when nobody's looking, just go to your dad, and you're gonna go live with your dad, and that's gonna be it. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So a day bright light, I swam across. I went into the Yalu River, and then I swam across the Yalu River, and then my dad was on the other side waiting for me with a taxi cab, and then we drove off. And life in China was so much better than in North Korea, because like in North Korea, if you were to watch South Korean dramas or any kind of foreign medias, you could be jailed. And if you get captured with a Bible in North Korea, not just you, but your entire 3 generations of your family will be sent to political prison camp. So basically, it was no freedom of movement. There's no freedom of religion. There's no freedom of speech. There's no freedom of information. But when I came to China, it was just so different. Literally, I tell people that coming to China felt like getting into a time machine and just fast forwarding 50 years into the future. Because in North Korea, we didn't have any of that. I didn't have any of that. And I lived in China for about 9 months. And my life was like heaven. But unfortunately, that happiness short-lived, because my neighbor actually reported me to the authorities, and I got captured, and I was sent back to North Korea. And I was sent to a interrogation, so the North Korean secret police, beat me and interrogated me and forced me to confess that I was trying to defect to South Korea. But I told them that, I went to China to live with my father, and that I had no desire to defect to South Korea. And eventually, they released me to the North Korean defectors detention center, where I was fed 150 kernels of cow feed. So it's like a corn, but it's not the corn that we eat here in America or anywhere. It's actually modified to feed cows and pigs. And we had to work up to 12 hours every day. It doesn't matter what it is, either constructions, farmings, and chopping down the trees, you name it, we do it. And one morning, we're marching in our roast, our work site, and I saw dry vomit on the road. And I was so hungry that I got on my hands and knees and began picking the rice out of the vomit.
Dear God.
And I didn't stop eating the vomited rice until the beating from the guards were too unbearable. And night, the guards would storm into our cells and force us to recite the rules of the camp, right? And there were many rules, and you had to memorize them. And even if you misquoted even one of them, they would force you to stand all night until work began the next morning. It was on one of those sleepless nights that I vowed I will not die here, and I would escape North Korea again. And about 9 months later, I was finally released because I couldn't even stand up or even lift my arm, and I had lost so much weight that I was a worthless worker, and they sent me back home. And essentially, if I was an adult, right after the North Korean defectors detention center, I would go to 4 years of additional labor camp. But because I was a minor at the time, I was released to my half brother's house with my half brother's supervision and care. And I spent many months trying to regain my strength, but without any money, there was no way of supporting myself. And eventually, my half brother told me that, well, Charles, now you're 15. You are on you're a man now, so you have to take care of yourself. So that's why I started working at a coal mine. Now, the most of other boys that working in the mine were my age, and we would push 1,000-pound steel coal cart miles into the mountain. Then we'll crawl down the smaller tunnels with empty sacks and only return once they're full, right? And there are cave-ins, there are accidents, and I've seen other people lose their arms and even lives because of those cave-ins and accidents. And I thought to myself, well, like inevitably that is going to be me one day. And I thought, it's far worth for me to try to escape North Korea again and dying trying to escape North Korea again than actually dying in a coal mine. So I decided to escape again in August of 2011. So I got on a train illegally. Again, in North Korea, there are no freedom of movement. So it was impossible. It would have been impossible for me to get on a train because there are checkpoints on all major roads in North Korea, and there are guards on the train with guns, and they would check your tickets and your identifications, right? But for me, I was a child, and I lied to those guards and that my mother had the tickets, and I would bring them back to you when I find my mom. So eventually I got on the train, and then I rode that train for about 2 days. And in North Korea, like from one end of Korea to another end of Korea, if you were to drive, it would take you about 8 hours because the Korean peninsula combined, it's still smaller than half of California. But because there are a lot of power outages in North Korea, the train would just stop middle of nowhere, right? So we would move for like 2 hours, and we would stop for like 8 hours, and move for another 5, and we would stop for another like 10 hours. And eventually I came to the border town because like I did have to like play hide and seek with the police officers on the train, and sometimes I would have to hide. I would have to climb out of the train window and climb on top of the train, or sometimes I would have to hide the hitch between the two cars to avoid the guards, because if I were to get caught, then I will be sent back to my hometown, and I'll I will probably go to labor camp and I'll probably starve to death. And eventually I came to the border town 2 days later, and I walked to the river that divides North Korea and China, and I hid in the tall grass for many hours waiting for the darkness. And when I finally thought it was safe, I quietly waded into the water. And in the middle of the river, I slipped on a rock and I let out a gasp, right? And immediately a flood of light was on my back, and I heard the guard screaming at me, and that like he would shoot me if I didn't turn back. But I knew I was dead either way. Either he would shoot me or I would obey and return to the shore, only to be shipped off to labor camp. Right. And I was not going to, I was not going to like do that, because, I've been in the detention center, basically labor camp, like the long hours of hard manual labor, the constant feelings of hunger, and the sleepless night that I, spent memorizing the rules. And I was not going to let that happen. And I kept waiting ahead. And the guard kept screaming at me, but he eventually never, he never pulled the trigger. And I came to China side, and, because when I first escaped North Korea, my father was on the other side waiting for me with a taxi cab. But this time it was like I was all alone, and I needed to get out of the city as soon as I could. So I literally took off running, and I walked in the Chinese forest, for 3 days without any water or food. And eventually my shoe fell apart, my feet got blisters, and it popped and it started bleeding. So I could no longer walk. So I gave up in the middle of a road. And let me just go back just a little bit and tell you about how I met Jesus. So when I first came to China, a South Korean pastor came to my house and he gave me a book of Matthew, right? And I'm not sure why Matthew, but he gave me Matthew. And each time he come visit me, he would give me like Chinese yen, like based on how many pages of Matthew I've read, right? So if I were to read like 3 pages, then he would give me 3 yen. So I usually tell people that the South Korean missionary bribed me into the kingdom. And he also taught me how to pray. And when I first got captured and going through all of these struggles of picking eating live mice, right? Because I was so hungry, and picking corn out of my own poop because I was so hungry, and eating all this dry vomit like rice off of the ground. Like, and each night, like oftentimes like I was forced to stand and keep a watch of other inmates. But each of those time, like I'm standing, looking out the window, looking at the sky. It's just like the calmness, like the presence, right? Like a presence of peace in my heart. Anyway, so fast forward a little bit back to the forest, and I eventually gave up, and I collapsed in the middle of a road, and I started crying because all of these regrets just came flooding, flooding, because if I were to stay in North Korea, like I would have some food in my stomach, and I would at least have roof over my head right now, and I wouldn't die like this. And I remember that, okay, let me just pray to God. And I kneel down and I pray to God, if you're up there and if you're listening, please don't let me die like this. And miraculously, sometime later, a Chinese guy who was driving a motorcycle passes me by, and he stops, comes back.
The Good Samaritan story.
Yes, yeah. And he asks me, I mean, he knows where I am, but he was just in shock that, like, he's asking, like, where are you from? And I told him that, I'm from North Korea, and that I'm looking for my father. And, I could see, like, the concern in his face, because helping a North Korean defector in China, you could get into serious trouble in China. But after some time later, he picked me up. He put me on his motorcycle. We drove for another 8 hours. We went to his house, and the next morning, he connected me to a South Korean pastor, who actually gave me money, and then put me on a bus that went to the city where my dad used to live. So yeah, that's how I went. I came to China, right?
Wow.
And I walked to my dad's house, right? I mean, the Chinese guy gave me like clothing as well. He gave me some medications for my feet and gave me shoes. So anyway, I walk in to my dad's house, and he sees me, and he's just in absolute shock. And he whips out a belt and start beating me and asking me like, did you kill a person in North Korea? Is that why? Because it doesn't make sense to him. Like a 17-year-old kid, a child, risking his life to crossing international border and coming to China. That does not make sense to him. But I told him, no, I was hungry. I missed you. I wanted to see you. I wanted to live with you. Yeah, and eventually he accepted me. And then, eventually my dad was like, okay, so you can't stay in China because you're going to get captured and you're going to be sent back to North Korea again. But this time you're going to be an adult. You're going to be 18. And this is your second time escaping North Korea. So there is no mercy for you. So you can't stay in China. So you got to go to South Korea. So my dad found a broker that was helping North Korean refugees escape from China to Southeast Asia and come to Thailand. So I was in that route, and I came to Thailand eventually, and I applied for a political asylum to United Nations, and United Nations accepted me. And then United Nations, the UNICEF, which is the I think it's the UNICEF. I'm not sure if you guys know UNICEF, but yes, UNICEF accepted me, and they sent me to California, where I was resettled. Yes. So yeah, Good Samaritan, and I am grateful, very thankful that I'm here, and it's very different. I came to America without speaking any English. But I attended high school. I graduated high school, and I worked at many different jobs. Like I used to work at Panda Express. I worked at Subway, the sandwich shop, and I worked at Starbucks. And I used to work as a driving instructor and Uber driver, Lyft driver, and you name it. I've done it all.
Wow.
And eventually, I went to a coding boot camp in Northern California. And I learned how to code, and now I work as a software engineer for a small company based in California. And ever since then, I've got married, and I have a life here. So I'm very blessed. And I tell people that my story is definitely unique, but it is not uncommon. There are many people. There are 34,000, almost 35,000. North Korean refugees that resettled in South Korea, and there are about 400 officially documented North Korean refugees in the US, right? And not all of them speaks English, and not all of them can actually share their stories because their families are still back in North Korea. And if North Korean regime finds out that one of your family member escaped North Korea and went to either America or South Korea and sharing the experience of what it was like in North Korea, the North Korean regime will punish the family members back in North Korea, right? So in a way, for me, it's a blessing that I can do this, and it's a blessing that I don't have real ties back in North Korea, so that I can be the voice to the voiceless North Koreans. Yeah.
For those of you, again, if you're just tuning in, we are interviewing our new friend, Charles Ryu, and he escaped North Korea. He's telling a story, escaped twice.
Yes.
And he's here with us, and so he can chat. We can chat and have his. Really, I appreciate so much of the the conversation and you telling, I mean, honestly, telling this, the bravery, what you went through. For those of you, he's on TikTok, Charles North Korea, all one word, Charles, or at Charles North Korea. That is
Right.
where you can find him. And
Yes.
a lot of great videos there, a lot of great videos. There are so many questions that people want to ask you about North Korea. And so if you'd mind, we'll open up the conversation and with some questions. Is that all right?
That's fine with me. And I guess I want to mention that, not just on TikTok, but all the social media platforms, I'm trying to be the voice to the voiceless North Koreans. So it's on YouTube, it's on Instagram,
Great.
and it's on Facebook. Yeah.
So Charles North Korea is on all these social media platforms that you have?
That's right. Yes.
There you go. All right. So everybody, if you want to go on YouTube or Facebook or other social media, Charles North Korea, make sure you check that out and give him a follow. Seriously. Now,
Yes.
so let's open up. First, let's start about North Koreans. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about life in North Korea?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And, I get this question a lot, like, is every North Korean, every single one of the North Koreans are brainwashed and every North Korean wants to go to war with America, or, like, is every North Korean believes that, Kim Jong-un or Kim Jong-il is like a god figure? While it's true, like, people do believe in the regime, like, North Korea doesn't have like the religion, right? So it's like a worshiping the regime. That's not really a thing. We don't have the word for like worship or dictatorship or like even human rights. We don't have word for human rights. So, and not everyone are like, they are brainwashed, but not everyone believes that. At least like me, I didn't believe that when I was in North Korea, and my friends didn't believe that either, because, group of friends, we would watch like smuggled in foreign medias. Like I watched the 007 when I was in North Korea. And I used to watch this the Hollywood movie called Bad Boys 1. So I tell people that, well, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith was my inspiration for escaping North Korea. But yes, so, and also like some of the North Korean people, like the elites, right? The people who live in Pyongyang, like they live like far better life than, any middle class Americans. Like because they're chosen people, like they can freely travel. Like, for example, like diplomats, right? They are handpicked by the regime and they're very special and they can travel outside of North Korea, and they are, they live far better life than anybody. Therefore, like, why would they betray the regime, right? So,
Right.
So the short answer is like, I guess like the misconception is that like not every North Korean wants to go to war with America, and not every North Koreans are brainwashed. Like not every North Koreans believe that like Kim's families are the saviors of North Korea. Yeah.
And I agree. Looks like CL 30612. This man's story is filled with so much suffering, and the will to live is truly inspiring. I agree. I agree with that completely. And now Monstar is asking, because Monstar is a chef, since food was so scarce in North Korea, what was or is his favorite food in America and snacks? They're a certified chef, and they say, I need to know.
Yes. I love a good steak.
There we go.
I love because in North Korea, like the meat is luxury, right? It's very scarce. Like you can't afford it. Like very, very rarely you eat meat. But ever since coming to America, I have meat like every single meal, right? Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I the steak is one of my favorite food, and also In-N-Out. It's in California. I think that's the California signature kind of like hamburger. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now Starla is asking from TikTok, I have a question for Charles. Is it true that family members pay for generations if one member of their family breaks the law?
That is correct. Yes. So it depends on what kind of crime that you commit. So holding a Bible, right? That's one of the biggest, and 3 generations of your family will be persecuted. And talking bad about the regime, that will also get you a generational punishment. And most of all, talking bad about Kim's family directly, that's like the public execution kind of,
Wow.
public execution worthy of crime in North Korea.
That is okay. I've always, I'm fascinated with the documentaries on North Korea and tourists going to North Korea, and they're very, very restricted as far restricted on what they can do, what they can film, and especially who they can interact with because they have minders there. So
that's right.
Why are I think I can figure out the answer, but why are tourists prohibited from interacting with the local North Koreans?
Well,
like in Pyongyang,
right.
Because the people you said in Pyongyang, sorry, they're more of the elitist.
Yeah.
So
Bishop James, they're not. They are encouraged, right? I'm putting on the air quotes. They're encouraged to actually interact with locals in Pyongyang, right? It's not just anywhere else that they can't interact, because people in Pyongyang, they have been trained months on end for your arrival, right? They're trained in English. They're trained the way they behave. Oh. They're trained in the way they say about the regime. They're trained to do certain things in front of people, right? And you're encouraged to interact with them. It's not just outside of that, it's not allowed because those people aren't trained, right? So, and also like because like they would take you on a tour of from Pyongyang to like Rason, or Pyongyang to like Kaesong, right? Different cities like Pyongyang, Sariwon, Cheongjin, or all of those places. But in those roads, you are strictly prohibited from talking to those like locals in outside of Pyongyang, because like foreigner coming into North Korea and meeting them and telling them about the life outside of North Korea, because North Korean people don't know anything about what's going on outside, like the truth of what's going on outside of North Korea. Like North Korean people know that like this is how I learned in North Korea about America and South Korea. So America is, like they're all like the way that North Korean like regime portrays America is like werewolves, right? It's like North Korean soldier destroying like American soldiers, like dressed up like or like with long nose and like big facial hair, and like basically like a werewolf. So that they're trying to dehumanize Americans. And the way that they talk about South Korea is like South Korea is so poor that children are forced in the street selling gums and polishing Americans' military shoes to make ends meet, right? And that's what we're taught. And they don't know anything about what's going on outside of North Korea. But if a tourist would come into North Korea and tell them about the truth of what's happening outside of North Korea, people will rebel. Like they would, bring everything they have and try to overthrow the government, and they overthrow the regime, and they can't take that risk. So that's why, they're prohibited.
So Elle was asking, and of course I have this as one of my questions as well, because I saw this as well on documentary. And the documentary stated that every home is required to have a picture of the leaders, Kim Jong-un's father and grandfather, and that if those pictures are damaged in any way, or for example, if there's a fire in your home, you better make sure that you save those pictures. Those pictures must be saved first. Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
So let me tell you a story. I'm gonna say yes. And so in every child in America, if you were to ask them what is their dream, 100% of them will say probably somewhere along the lines of president, astronaut, right? A firefighter, let's say like a pilot, right? Those are the very common, dreams that kids have, which is normal. in North Korea, that is not the case. They want to be a human shield for Kim Jong-il, right? And
Wow.
that goes the same way to the parents as well. Like, you are expected to take care of the Kim Il Sung's portrait. Like it, so when you assign the housing, the pictures, right? Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il, and now Kim Jong Un, three of them are actually comes with the house standard. So it's like a, I guess like a bundle. It's
Yeah.
bundled feature. And you are entitled to take care of it. And it, like, the secret police would come to your house wearing white gloves, right? They would come to your house unannounced, randomly, and then they would actually wipe across on top of the frame, right, of the portraits. And if it's dirty, then you go to 6 months jail, right? Because the parents are required to set a good example to their children, right? So you're showing the royalty, and it, like, what kind of message are you giving it to your child if you don't take care of like our dear leaders like portraits, right? So yes, so you will get in trouble. And like, there was a when I was in North Korea, I mean I saw a lot of these like propagandas and North Korean documentaries about people in a fire. They're, instead of they saving their child,
Right.
like they would grab the Kim Il Sung and Kim Jong Il's portrait and coming out and losing their child. That's a real thing.
So I have to ask this. I mean, I find Kim Jong Un such a sadistic, evil, demonic human being. I'm sorry, I just simply do, and I find it appalling that any human being, any leader, can be so callous in removing human life. And the fact that this man is morbidly obese, he lives a life of extreme elitism. Where his people are, with all due respect, are eating corn from vomit. And this varmin, Kim Jong-un, has the audacity to show up in some of the most luxurious vehicles and homes. My question for you is this: how in the world can anybody who is barely struggling, I mean, let's say that you're not an elitist in Pyongyang, that you're middle class or even lower class, how could anybody look at Kim Jong-un with grateful love, seeing that this person who obviously indulges in food and pleasure, and yet people are barely surviving just to be able to put food on the table for their kids? Is there true resentment towards this man who clearly overindulges, or do they not see that at all?
Yes. So that is a great question, and yes, I agree with you. It's I say that to I say that to people. North Korean regime is not a government; it's a regime, and more than a regime, it's a cartel, right? They're holding their people hostage, right? And and the way that actually they're successfully maintained this total dictatorship is because North Korea is completely blocked out from the rest of the world, right? No information gets in, no information gets out. And from such a young age, you are trained, right? You're trained about the regime, you're trained about Kim's family, and show the respect, right? And that's why there is like 3 generational punishment exists, right? If you disobey the regime. And people are fearing, right? It's not just you that will get in trouble. It's your entire bloodline that will actually get in trouble if you misbehave or even say something wrong, right? Like in America, like we can say, "Oh, I hate Trump," or "I hate, I hate like Obama," and you can say that and nothing will happen to you, right? But in North Korea, if you said that, like, you are gone. Like, not just you, but your entire generations of your family, right?
So it is a cartel.
Right, and because of that, like, people are in fear. Like, and there's a phrase when I was in North Korea. There was a phrase like the parents are just so paranoid and afraid their child might go out and do something, so they would strictly like train them. And you remember, the birds would hear they talk, and the rats would hear night talk. So you have to watch out what you say, how you act when you go out. So it's a complete fear, right? And even
Okay.
like I've met some of the defectors because I escaped North Korea in 2011, and like because that's when before Kim Jong Il died, right? Before the father of Kim Jong Un. So I'm like I guess like I'm pre Kim Jong Un's era, but after like I've met some of the defectors who escaped like 2015, and they told me that like when the Kim Jong Il died, nobody cried. They wanted to film the street, people just like crying out loud and mourning about the about dear leader's death, but nobody cried and nobody really cared. So the government or the regime, like the local regime, had to come out and say, if you don't show remorse for your dear leader, you're gonna get in trouble. So people are fake crying, right? So it goes to show that like people are tired now, but they're just afraid of the punishment of what will happen to you, but not just you, but your family as well.
So do they see? Okay, so I guess the question for the middle class, the lower class, do they see Kim Jong Un as someone who overindulges, and how dare him, put any restrictions on anybody, considering the fact that he's living life as a king? And also, do they see the Kim Jong dynasty as gods?
The second question, no, they don't see them as gods. They see them as like the savior, but I wouldn't say like, because again, right, it's like there's no freedom of religion in North Korea, so God, like the word God, does not exist, right? Wow. So I can't really like compare like I guess like they believe in the regime, which is like the self ideology. It's called
wait, stop. That's a profound statement that you just said. So you're saying that in North Korea, the ideology of God just simply does not exist, that your faith is entirely placed in the hands of the Kim regime. So God doesn't even, so no one ever questions, where do we come from? How, the universe, the planets. I mean,
no, we do not. we do not question that at all. Yes.
I can't, that in of itself is so different that you look at the planets, you look at the moon, you look at the solar system, the stars in the sky, and it never got, the word God never enters your mind because it's never even introduced. Is that correct? It's not.
It's never. And also, Bishop James, like you have to think about this. People are starving, right? They're worried about what they're gonna put on their tables, right? And when like there's like a needs of triangle. It's like I forgot the word. What's the triangle? Like the some triangle of needs. It's like the food and everything. It goes up. And North Korean people are just so like food deprived, and they're so hungry that they don't really want to be curious about that either. And North Korean regime actually, and here's the thing too, like I've heard after coming to America, like going to church, and I've been hearing that there are underground churches in North Korea, and there are footages that actually coming out of North Korea, right? It's like people like praying and having Bible, but people like North Korean regime punishes you, not just you, but your entire 3 generations of your family, right? So it's just it's just like a out of realm thing for you. I'm sorry, I forgot the original question.
No. That I think you touch on the fact that God doesn't even enter the equation. It's just when you think about that perspective, it's just so mind blowing, because from cradle, when I was born, God was always introduced to my family, and I can,
right.
And I think that's what people need to understand, that when the people, that God is not even in the mindset that it is it is the dynasty. Now, this Kim Jong Un, I know he has a daughter, and he seems to be pushing his daughter as far as a little bit more public awareness. Does he have a son? There's a lot of debate as to whether or not he does or does not.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I only know like he has a daughter, and he has a sister, but I could be wrong. Like he may have many children, but the reason why, okay, so the reason why he, he appears to be obese and he's coming out as this kind of warm, like a, family guy,
Mhm.
is because, so I'm not sure if you know Kim Il Sung,
Sure.
but Kim Il Sung once held he's trying to copy Kim Il Sung, right?
Right.
Like Kim Il Sung was like morbidly obese, and he had this kind of like warm presence of like the grandfather, hanging out with like kids a lot, and those kind of image. So they're trying to recreate that image and going back in kind of like, I guess like going back like good times. And I also heard like many things about Kim Jong-un actually getting plastic surgery to actually look like his grandfather. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, and you can see that. And you can see the way he walks and the way he presented the straw hat, and so many of his mannerisms. You clearly see that there is, without question, there's copying his grandfather's.
Resemblance.
No question about that. When you think back of all the people that are still in North Korea, and I'm talking about the middle class and the people who are the poor, the impoverished. Would you say that the majority of the country is impoverished, or how would you split it? Like 20% the elitists in Pyongyang versus middle class, and so how would you break that apart? And then describe what a middle class family looks like to you in North Korea. So if we could just get an idea of how many are the elites, middle, and lower class, and what is the middle class? What does it look like?
Yes. So I would say top 1% of the elites are living in Pyongyang, right? Those are the descendants of the people who fought with Kim Il Sung during the Japanese colonial, right?
Okay.
And in North Korean, we call those people Baekdu Hyoltong, right? So they're from like a Mount Baekdu's bloodline, right? So those are the top 1%, and those are chosen people who gets to live in Pyongyang. And middle class, lower class, they're not allowed in Pyongyang. You have to have a specific invitation to go to Pyongyang, right? Without invitation, you can't enter, right? If your car has a dirt on it, you're not allowed in Pyongyang either. You have to get a car wash beforehand, make it look shiny, and then you can enter Pyongyang, right? And the other 99%, I would say those are divided into, I would say, like 30 and like a 60%, 30% and 60%, sorry, 30 and 69%. So 30% of the elites live in like the capital cities of each province, right? So Sariwon is another capital city, like it's really big capital city. And they put a lot of like, there are a lot of like little high middle class people who lives there.
Okay. And
they are the descendants and family members of these like elites, right? And I would say like Sariwon, Cheongjin, Hamhung, Wonsan, and Kaesong, let's say like capital cities. They are actually doing somewhat okay because they can actually do like business, right? With the black market. It's called Changmadang in North Korea. So you run like a small businesses in North Korea with the power that you have through those like because you gotta remember that North Korean government is corrupt, right? So the bribe exists, and everything will get resolved with bribe. And even like killing a person, you get actually that actually resolves. Like if you bribe, like you will go out of like you will walk out of the prison free.
Wow.
If you bribe. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the rest of the 60% are the people who are very impoverished, like they're struggling to make like other 69%. I'm sorry, they are the people who live in those like a smaller cities, like the rural areas, and like like a in the pro like yeah, undeveloped, right? There's like a roads are unpaved and yeah. So I would say that's just like my personal opinion.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, and I have not like deeply researched, but I feel like if you were to like research like people, I feel like the scholars, right, people who have been studying this for years on end, they might say something different, but that's just what I personally believe.
And you certainly could not, if you're a tourist, you couldn't go to these poor areas and speak to them. The authorities wouldn't let you do that. You would have to stay in the capital to speak to the elites, because they have been practiced, and this is what you're supposed to say, and et cetera. So there would be literally no chance whatsoever of you going to the impoverished area. What do you? I think when you think of North Korea, and you certainly think of the leadership, do you think that North Korea will ever have a woman as a leader? And meaning, because Kim Jong-un is really showing off and showcasing his daughter, and a lot of people are questioning whether or not it's even possible that a female could in fact lead the regime. Do you think that's possible?
I mean, that I believe so. I mean, that's an absolute possibility, because Kim Yo-jong, right, Kim Jong-un's sister, like she's even more notoriously known, for being cruel, right, than Kim Jong-un. Yeah, so they are like, he started introducing like his sister, his daughter. So there is a high chance that when Kim Jong-un dies, his sister will come up and say, "Now I am the shining star of North Korea." And so that is a possibility. Yeah, and also speaking of the tourism in North Korea, right? Like I've got that question a lot too. Like you see in the tourist like videos and documentaries, passing by, like you see this like impoverished like towns and just driving by, people like in North Korea. Like when I was in North Korea, we still use like the gas combustion cars, like the steam cars, and we use like cows for farming and whatnot. But not to go off topic, but like I kind of tell people that, like, if you really want to go visit North Korea, you can, but not for the reason to experience North Korean culture, right? Yeah. You are going to North Korea and you are shown what the regime wants you to see. Right. You're only getting to meet people who they actually want you to meet, right? So you're not getting all this kind of authentic experience of North Korea. That's one reason that I don't recommend. Another reason is that, like, you are supporting the North Korean regime, who have been oppressing like their people, right? And you're paying money to that regime, which means like you are paying North Korean regime to continue to oppress its people, right? That's another reason. And lastly, you going into North Korea, and sure, like, it makes a great content, right? You film these and coming out and saying, "Hey, look what I've got." It's like vintage, like looking like a postcards from North Korea, or like stamps from North Korea. It's because it is like North Korea is like technologically wise is 70 years behind, and by doing that, like like getting out of postcards of like North Korean regime, like North Korean like army is trying to like destroy America. It's like you're basically humanizing North Korea. Like, oh yeah, it's okay to do that. Yeah. It's okay to, it's okay to like oppress. It's okay to support the regime who is oppressing their people.
Totally understand that. So, totally. And I agree, and I agree with you. Do you have just a few more minutes for a few more questions?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, let's briefly talk about Otto Warmbier. So we know, for those of you who don't know, Otto was an American student. He passed away after being released from North Korean custody, where he had been imprisoned, and he was found in a coma and passed away after returning home. A report from the BBC indicated that Otto was in a coma for over a year, was released by North Korea in a condition that led to his passing. The circumstances surrounding his death and imprisonment have drawn significant international criticism, obviously, and condemnation of the North Korean regime. What do you think, in fact, happened to Otto? They, of course, say that it was medication, and something of this nature. But what do you honestly believe?
I believe that because I've been in North Korean prison, and I can say from my personal experience, he have been tortured, and the reason why he was in coma was because he was brain dead, right? And there are two reasons why he could be brain dead. One is drowning, right? The other is electric shock, which both are possibilities. And now keep it in mind that he simply wanted to, like, he took down a poster, right, that apparently had, like, which shows, like, how cruel the North Korean regime is, right? So yes, it's such a tragic case, and I'm
well,
and after that incident, America actually banned American citizens going.
Oh.
They did that.
And actually, very quickly, I saw a documentary where they interviewed a young lady that was in his group, and she says that they were having, I think, a New Year's celebration, and that he was with her when they have this video, like 1:15 or so, when this shady picture of this alleged auto stealing a picture, and she says no, he was with us. He wasn't even in the hotel at that time. So the video that they have of this person stealing this thing, it is so
it's
grainy.
Not even Otto Warmbier,
right? And she said she absolutely swore that he was with the group when they were out having the celebration. And so you're convinced, obviously, this was something that, unfortunately, this was a torture.
That's absolutely infuriating. Yeah, I did not watch the documentary. I've seen, like, Otto Warmbier speaking, in, like, if you look up Otto Warmbier on YouTube, like, you will see, like, him pleading for his life.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, again, go to Charles North Korea on all the social media outfits, on TikTok, on YouTube, and Facebook. Charles North Korea, and you can chat with him there. And of course, he's again, as he's been very, very kind and with his time speaking to us so far, and we appreciate that. I just have, now that you've been in the States, there's two questions. The first question is are you fearful of your life being here? And now that you're in the United States, you don't see that United States is this big, horrible, mean, nasty country that wants to, the werewolves. North Korea always seems to be threatening their neighbors and even threatening the United States. From your perspective as a person who lived in North Korea, I guess the first question is, are you fearful of being in the States here, of your safety? And two, do you think that North Korea could have a chance going up against the United States military now that you've been in both countries?
Yes. So the first question, I am not fearful because I am an American citizen. Obama accepted me back in 2012, and Trump gave me a citizenship, so I'm grateful. I'm an American citizen. I have a passport, so I'm not fearful. And doing something like that's an act of war.
Right.
And second question, I do not believe North Korea will dare, like, not North Korea, Kim Jong-un is there to do that, dare to, harm, US or even threaten US, because, well, as I mentioned, technologically, personally, I felt like getting into time machine and traveling 70 years into the future, right? Because how behind North Korea is technologically, right? And America, they don't stand a chance. No, they do not. And here is the thing too, like, I believe that, God had put hand on that guard at the Yalu River so that he does not pull not pull the trigger. But what also I think is another theory that, I'm thinking is that the MAX were empty. They don't have resources. Like, North Korea does not have resources to do, like, to build more weapons and build make bullets. So I don't, even there's something going on, North Korea doesn't stand a chance. Like, Kim Jong-un doesn't stand a chance. And when I was in North Korea, the running joke within North Korea was that even if the war breaks out, 90% of their armies would turned back their guns to their superiors because they were underfed, mistreated, abused, right? And remember, so men, like right after they graduating school at the age of 17, all men except like, if they have like a terminal illness or if they're disabled, besides them, all men has to serve in the military for 12 years.
Wow.
In that 12 years, like they're starved, they're not treated well. And so like, yeah, it's chaotic, right? So there was a running joke in North Korea that even if the war breaks out, 90% of the North Korean soldiers will return his fire to their own superiors.
That is absolutely,
Yes.
honestly, Charles, I tell you what, have you written a book?
I have not written a book yet, but I'm trying to work on it.
Your story is so, I mean, this in of itself is, my gosh, I could see a movie. I mean, it's very rare. Look, here's the deal. As an American, both as Americans, we wish no harm on North Korea. We wish Americans do not want war with North Korea. And I just find it so appalling as clergy to hear your story of how human beings, I don't care what nationality they are human beings, and how they have been treated so terribly and harshly. And that makes me so, it infuriates me. I wish that the Kim dynasty would go away, and the people could actually get the help they deserve.
Yes. Bishop James, this is what I usually tell. So I'm not sure if you knew, but North Korea, so Pyongyang, the North Korean capital, the Pyongyang, was once known as the Jerusalem of the East, like before, like I think during like a long time ago, like maybe like during the Japanese colonial times, or maybe like right afterwards, because there were so many Christians and Catholics in North Korea, and Kim Il-sung was raised Catholic.
Wow.
Yes, he was raised Catholic. So one thing that I ask people, especially Christians, I ask them to pray for North Korea, and pray that North Korea will become once again, the Pyongyang will become once again the Jerusalem of the East, and that God has power to, change anybody's heart. And it will be a glorious day tomorrow, right? You turn the news and Kim Jong-un accepts, Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior, and, let his people go. And that, if you can pray for North Korea, and if you can pray for that, that'll be amazing.
Amen.
And that's the one thing that you can do to help North Korean people.
And we will all pray that you will have the time and the resources to be able to write your book, because I think your story sheds a light on North Korea and what the North Koreans are enduring that we'll never see on a documentary. We'll never see it, but you were there and you experienced it. And I don't care how many millions of dollars they spend on a documentary on North Korea, your story far exceeds any documentary that they can put together, because you were there, you experienced it, you know what it's like, you experienced twice, you escaped twice. And I think the world, not just the country, the United States, I think the world absolutely, Charles, we need to hear your story. And
thank you so much.
I appreciate you so very, very much for spending time with us and sharing it. And I wish you many wonderful, happy years of success here in the States. And I will be the very first one to, I promise you, buy your book as soon as it comes out, and we'll bring it right back on.
Thank you so much. It was my absolute honor to be on your show and share my story. And thank you so much, listeners, for hearing my story. And please do reach out to me if you have any questions, or reach out to Bishop James, and we'll connect and answer any of your questions that you might have.
Wonderful. Charles, well, we're going to disconnect, and then I'll send you a little message a little bit later on after the show, and we'll definitely stay in contact.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Bishop James.
Thanks, Charles. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, everybody, that was our friend Charles. I tell you what, man, what truly, I can't imagine. I mean, good grief. It's almost like you just have to kind of, you know, it blows the mind. You know, truly, that was a remarkable conversation. And it's Charles Ryu. So again, Charles, North Korea. There, I think it says Jennifer. Make sure if you're on TikTok, make sure you follow Charles. He's also on Facebook. He's also on YouTube. He makes a lot of videos where people ask questions and he gives them answers. He's very upfront. He doesn't sugarcoat it. He tells you exactly what he experienced. 150. Think about this. When he was in prison in North Korea detention center for defectors, he was again a young teenager. He was given 150 kernels of corn, cow feed. That's it. And he worked 12 hours a day. 150 kernels of corn. And then he was forced, young again, as a kid, a 16-year-old kid, 17-year-old, he was sent to work in a coal mine. I tell you what, truly, that was just unbelievable. Let me just say this. If you go and you watch on social media, because there's a lot of people do this, they make these videos of Kim Jong-un and he's so powerful and yes and no, yeah. You know what? You do that, shame on you. This is not a man who needs to be honored and respected and revered. Kim Jong-un is a dictator. He's a horrible human being. Horrible. He's right on the same lines with in particular leader in World War II. And we all know. And I just think that Kim Jong-un is just a monster. He is a monster. And what they do to their people is just disgusting. And you know, it really did. When he said the concept of God never enters North Koreans' mind because it just doesn't exist. I mean, God is not introduced to them at all. It is, and that's what when Charles said that, I thought, wow, that just, and that, I mean, I always assumed that maybe a few people would, maybe God exists, but no, God doesn't even exist in North Korea. It is the Kim regime. You're right. You're absolutely right. It does. It makes you realize how blessed we truly are. So, we all go back and forth and people scream, hoot and holler, politics and all that other stuff. You know what? You're lucky. First of all, we're very lucky that we live in a country where we can say, I don't like the president or I really love the president. See, we're lucky we can say that. We can even say it in public and not even worry about anything. But in North Korea, you don't have that luxury. In North Korea, you're unalived. You are unalived. Not put in prison. You're unalived. There is no such thing as going out in the public, corner and saying, Kim down with Kim Jong-un. No, you'd be unalived. There won't be any arrest. You're unalived. That's just truly, truly amazing. So again, it's Charles Ryu. And you can go on Charles North Korea, all one word, Charles North Korea. And he really, honestly, on YouTube and Facebook and TikTok, make sure you follow him. Everybody send him a follow. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to put it in the chat here for Facebook and everybody. Charles North Korea. And there you go. That is his information. Okay. First of all, the Mahdi. Okay, look. If you're going to come in and spam that nonsense, all you're doing, you're just going to be blocked. I've addressed this already. Let me just make this very clear about this Mahdi. If you are a prophet, you do not tell people to make allegiance to you. That's number one. And he has. I've seen it. I've watched the videos. He tells them to make allegiance to him. Well, if you're a prophet, that's not your job. Your job is not to say, put the spotlight on me. Your job is to point to Christ. That is your job as a prophet. Your job is not to say, now you pledge allegiance to me, because no, that's a dictatorship. There's no other way around it. John the Baptist, one of the great prophets, did not say, oh, it's all about me, pay allegiance to me. No, he didn't. So I think, yeah, this whole Mahdi thing, it's getting stupid now. It's just enough. He's not a prophet. He's not a descendant from Jesus. He's not a descendant from Moses. And there's a history there. Do a little bit of research, and it's very disturbing on some of the things that he has written. So you're not going to come in here and spread that nonsense anyway. No, it's the Mahdi. Yeah, they're all over social media now. I'm like, yeah, whatever. You're very welcome. So yeah, make sure everybody you follow Charles, North Korea. Charles, North Korea. Okay. And I really appreciate him taking the time and doing that presentation. So it's very nice. Very nice. Okay. You're right. Yeah. The false prophets are definitely, even though the Muslims have denied, everyone is denying this guy. This guy's just, it's nonsense. It's nonsense. Don't follow him. If you follow him, you're going to be misled. He's just another human. He's just another. I interviewed, do you remember the guy I interviewed? He was the boyfriend, the partner of Amy, who went around calling herself Mother God and Father God. And she was the reincarnation of every other human being, famous person. Well, remember, I had him on and we spoke to him on the show. It's just the same thing. It is just the same body, same narcissistic tendency of thinking that you're greater than you are. So it's ridiculous. But nonetheless, yeah. I won't be following him at all. And if you do, well, then you'll be misled. So that's just the way it is. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to chat with you guys and kind of go from there and answer some of your, if you have any questions about demonology, or because we haven't done that in a while. And I don't mind doing that but I do have a lot of articles that we have not gone to, a lot of articles. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Medic. I appreciate that. And go from there. Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Charles. So the new Pope, well, I think he's the new Pope. I don't really think anything good or bad. He's just the new Pope. I mean, he spent most of his time in Peru. So what do I think about him? I think he's the new Pope. I don't really, I'm not really there. I don't really have a good or bad kind of opinion. What I do find interesting, though, is I find interesting that all the conspiracy theorists out there, they're very quiet right now about trying to figure out, well, thank you. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do now, because after all, Francis is supposed to be the last Pope, according to all these conspiracy theorists. Well, I think Pope Leo would have a problem with that. So anyway, that's what they're doing now. So they're trying to come up with another conspiracy theory and all this other stuff. That's what they're doing now. So I'm just giving you heads up. They're doing that, and it's always going to be something, no matter what. It's always going to be something. So anyway, Kim Jong-un, do I find him to be demonic? I do find him to be demonically oppressed, no question, or influenced. Any human being that can do what he has done and continues to do to his people is evil. It's just pure evil. That's sadistic. That's sadism. And I believe with all my question, he is sadistic. I do believe he is pure evil. And I certainly don't think that he's a respectful human being at all. I mean, really, honestly, I mean, what you have is, pretty disturbing person. So Yeah, LeBron and Jordan. Yeah, well, Jordan, no question. Someone's asking about Lilith. I've talked about Lilith before, actually quite a bit. And Lilith is Jewish folklore, who is first attested in the Dead Sea Scroll called the Songs on the Sage. So it's the later Babylonian Talmud. It was about AD 300 to 500. She's described as a demon, and then in later medieval alphabet, Ben Sira first describes her as Adam's wife. But Lilith is not found in sacred scripture or even church tradition. So stories about her being Adam's wife, it is myth. So just kind of keep that in mind, friends. It is myth. It is not true. She is not Adam's wife. She was never Adam's wife. So there we are. Well, Brian, it's better that you just type them here. Yeah, a lot of people ask about her. Yep, we have a new pope. Okay. Lucifer. Yeah, we can talk about Lucifer. Okay. Lucifer, Satan, and the devil, they are one and the same. So let me, absolutely, Boston, a non-denominational is not evil at all. As a matter of fact, let me make this very clear. If you are Roman Catholic, and if you're going around telling people they need to convert to Roman Catholicism, then Pope Francis says when you do that, you're committing a grave sin against ecumenism. So Pope Francis made it very clear not to do this. And Pope Leo is in the same camp of Pope Francis. So if, in fact, you're Roman Catholic and you're telling people they need to convert to Roman Catholicism, you're not a practicing Catholic. You're just simply not, because you're not following the pontiff's teaching. So Pope Leo recently stated, well, not when he was cardinal, that he agrees with Francis when Francis said, do not do this. And he called it a grave sin against ecumenism. So if you're Roman Catholic and you're doing that, you're not a practicing Roman Catholic. You kind of tell on yourself. So the question was, is Lucifer, Satan, and the devil one and the same? Yes, it is. So let me explain why. Think of it as identification. So Lucifer refers to his angel self. Lucifer actually means light or light bringer, light bearer. Devil refers to his evil being, his existence. And Satan refers to the concept that he is evil. The title of Prince of Darkness as opposition of Christ. So the Bible is very clear that the devil and Satan are one. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 9, says, so the great dragon was cast out, the serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth and his angels were cast with him. So now regarding Lucifer, Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12 says, how you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, how you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations. So this Lucifer fell from heaven. Jesus even said, so he's referring to Isaiah 14. Jesus said in Mark chapter 10, verse 18, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. So without question, he's referring to Isaiah. So thus, Lucifer is Satan. So Lucifer means light bringer. That was his original name. And then he was the devil, the slanderer, the accuser, and Satan, the adversary, the opposer. And so again, in Revelation, he's called the devil or Satan. So there we go. I think we can absolutely conclude, just based from that alone, that they are all one and the same. So anyway, okay. Yeah, when was the first? Yeah, someone's asking when was the first form that was written in exorcism. Actually, the rite of exorcism, the first form we see, it was written in 1614, and then the office of exorcist, it continued as a minor order on the road to priesthood until 1972. The order was actually suppressed by Pope John the Sixth. And then the Code of Canon Law in the Roman Church specifies that each bishop to designate an exorcist until the revision occurred in 1983. And then the rite was actually revised in 1999. So there we go. Well, thank you very much. Okay. Well, thank you there, Farid. Appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Jezebel and Lilith. Yeah, Lilith is myth. It's mythical. So there are two types of exorcisms that are actually performed on an individual. The two main types. The first type would be called supplicating exorcism. That is a prayer directed to God, who's asked to bring relief to the life of the one who is experiencing evil. This is known as a deliverance. Now, you can pray over a person who has a demonic attachment, and you pray for a removal of that attachment. But you got to be careful because that person could go into possession. That's different than what's called a supplicating exorcism, or I'm sorry, an imperative exorcism. An imperative exorcism, that is a command given in the name of Christ, thank you, directed to the demon to depart. So the Roman Catholic belief in the canon law states that any believer can perform what's called a supplicating exorcism, a prayer of deliverance. That's a prayer directed towards the God to remove that demonic attachment. But an imperative exorcism, that is a sacred rite. It is reserved for a priest who has been authorized by his bishop to perform the ministry, and that's really important to understand. So there we go. Oh, Frank can't be a normal human being, just show actual respect. That's the same. Imagine a troll. Again, if you're going around telling people that you need to convert to Roman Catholic, you are actually not a Roman Catholic, practicing Roman Catholic yourself. I'm going to say it again. Pope Francis made it clear that if you're a Roman Catholic and you're going around telling people they need to convert to Roman Catholicism, he called it a grave sin against ecumenism. Pope Leo said the same manner. So there we go. I don't know. I don't know the new pope, so I don't know. You know, the Jesuits, I studied with the Jesuits. I studied at Loyola University in Chicago. The Jesuits are thinkers. They're philosophers. And so philosophy was quite heavy. At Loyola, I did get to meet Sister Jean. Yeah, I did. And at first I hated philosophy. I hated it. I couldn't stand it because they would write 500 pages of just saying one line. Just get to the point. Just get to the point. Just stop with all this 500 pages. Just say what you're trying to say. But it finally clicked when I was reading, I forgot what book, I think it was Aristotle. And it finally clicked that philosophy is not about telling you what to think. Philosophy is teaching you how to think. And when I got that, is like, I fell deeply in love with philosophy. Actually, yeah, I have a 110-page paper of 110 pages showing my apostolic succession. So nice try, Yamasi. You might want to actually try to be a little bit more Christian. So yeah, I have a 110-page documentation. I'm actually a member of Order of Corporate Reunion as well. It's a very beautiful and reputable organization that validates people's apostolic succession. Not that you actually understand apostolic succession. But anyway, okay. It's always somebody. Always somebody. Again, you know. Yes. Yep, they do. In the Roman Catholic Church, they do acknowledge our orders. Actually, St. Pope John Paul and Pope Benedict wrote an article called Dominus Jesus that clearly states that any church that has apostolic succession is considered validly Catholic. If you actually go to usocc.org and click on the validity link, you'll find lots of information where, in fact, the Roman Catholic Church 100% acknowledges valid orders from the Old Catholic Church. So there we go. But that requires too much thinking for the trolls. Rather, they would rather troll rather than to learn. Well, you have to be. How can you prove? Again, that's why I'm a member of the Order of Corporate Reunion. It is, again, it's an organization that either validates or invalidates your apostolic succession. So I'm not trying to convince anything. I'm trying to answer a question. I really don't care if you believe it or not. I'm not here to convince you of anything. Boy, I tell you what, you answer a question, then you get accused of trying to convince people of things. Really? Guys, I've already answered the question like 20 times on the Pope. So anyway, okay. So bear with me for one moment. Trolls, I'm not going to pay attention to you. I'm just going to let you know, we're adults here. We don't do Jerry Springer episodes here. We are actually adults. So I don't speak to people who are 50 years old who acts like a pestilent child. In fact, who wants to be rude and discourteous. So I'm just not going to pay attention to you at all. You don't affect me. You certainly cannot have an intellectual conversation with me because I can't reduce my brain cells to the level of your understanding. And I'm not going to waste my time with your hatred. So thank you. So what we do here is we actually have a conversation with people who are kind and courteous, who act like respectful adults rather than 3-year-old children who don't get their way. Okay. So, fine. So always have to address that with TikTok, imagine. I don't think I'm going to answer any more questions for you because you're being very disrespectful. So that's it. I don't think I'll answer any more questions. You, sir, are in timeout. Okay. Listen to this, everybody. This is a very, I'm asking God, what? 16 times? I don't know why. So what 16 times? Please understand that I also run the show on 2 different computers, and I've got over 300 people in here asking questions. I'm only one person. I can only answer one question at a time. So let's kind of relax with this. I ask a question and you didn't answer it. Well, I can only ask one question at a time. So no, we answer to God. Okay, listen to this. This is a very interesting question. This is or article that I found. Yeah, anybody else want timeout? You're just going to get blocked by the moderators because they don't put up with rude behavior either. So if you're rude, you're just going to be blocked. Anyway, this is by TK Randall. Yeah, be blessed and be blocked. Oh, I've got to do this. Mr. Producer, you're going to love this. Trolls. Oh, the trolling on TikTok, you know. You never answer my question. I don't think you're a real priest. Even though you said to go to your website 1,000,000 times and it's all there. I've been practicing with this. I have. See? So there you go, trolls. That's the troll anthem. You're not supposed to do that. You're not acting like a very good priest. No, because I don't like trolls, and trolls don't intimidate me. Okay. TK Randall writes this. Listen to this, everybody. This is very interesting. Oh, boy, the chat's going really crazy now. It makes them mad when I play the violin for them. It's a troll anthem. There it is. TK Randall writes this. An ex-NASA official claims to have seen a flying saucer with USAF logo on it. Trolls, that means United States Air Force. I have to be nice. Yeah. The rest of you brilliant thinkers, you didn't need me to let, but anyway. Anyway, a retired flight surgeon maintains that he saw a secretive saucer-shaped vehicle belonging to the U.S. Air Force. Well, okay. Francesco, understand, a lot of people, the moment you are conceived is the moment you become terminal. No one is guaranteed to live one day. No one is guaranteed to live 100 years. Every day that we have is a gift from God. Every day. We cannot be angry with a God that grants us eternal life when life is truly incredibly fragile. I've lost family members very early at age. And I get it. I understand. It still hurts. Totally understand. But every day that we live is a gift. Every hour that we live is a gift. And we must continue to praise God when things are great. That's easy. But our faith must come in when things are bad. When we're going through the difficult times, that's where true faith comes in. It's okay to be angry, but you don't want to stay there. Okay, let me do this first. Dr. Gregory Rogers, a former NASA chief flight surgeon and Air Force major, has spoken about something that he had witnessed back in 1992 at Cape Canaveral, Florida. See, at the time, he had been conducting an inspection when he was approached by an Air Force major who invited him to come and see something that he had claimed would knock his socks off. Rogers was then taken to a room where he was shown a CCTV feed of something extraordinary, a saucer-shaped vehicle with the U.S. Air Force logo clearly emblazoned on it. Says, I would estimate it was about 20 feet wide, probably 8 to 10 feet tall, and it had shallow dome on top of it. That sounds like to me like a one of those U2s or another one. There was another one. I forgot what it was. I forgot the name of it. Anyway, there were no antennas. There were no flight control surfaces. Everything was very smooth and blended. Saw no rivets, no seams. Everything was white. But there was a vertical black rectangle on the 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock position on the upper half of the vehicle. It says, without warning, the object began to move. And all of a sudden, it just lifted up as smooth as it could be. And once it got maybe 3 feet above the concrete surface, it rotated clockwise 1 revolution, and it revolved counterclockwise 1 revolution. Yeah, it might have been a drone. So yeah, it might have been a drone. I'm not for sure. You can, but I have I have about 14,000 messages on TikTok, so I'll try. A bishop is a priest, but a bishop oversees a diocese or archdiocese. A priest oversees a parish. So sometimes 2 or 3 parishes, depending. So a bishop oversees the whole entire jurisdiction. So they're in charge of all the parishes. And then they assign priests, to obviously pastor those parishes. Okay? All right. I don't know about this one. What do you think about this? Is an amazing story. Did you hear about this one? This is again by TK Randall. He writes, an 80-year-old falls from the 6th floor window and walks away unscathed. That's amazing. So according to reports, the incidents which occurred in Russia occurred after the woman who had been cleaning her windows lost balance and fell. The idea that anyone, let alone an 80-year-old, could survive such a plunge seems impossible. Yet not only did the woman survive, she simply got to her feet and walked away as if nothing happened. What ultimately saved her life was the fact that she fell on top of a car, which crumbled when she landed on it. Even so, it cushioned her impact with the ground in just the right way to save her. Can you imagine? Even a professional stunt person would have trouble landing so perfectly. It says, quote, not only was she lucky to fall right, but had she been any further toward the building, the back of her head would have likely hit the frame supporting the truck. She landed square in the middle of the roof, allowing it to crumble and not her. But I can't imagine at 6 stories. And even if you fall 6 stories and you land perfectly on top of a car roof, I mean, the car, it's on a pillow. And she just got up, 80 years old, by the way. I'm thinking to myself, could I do that? No, I think I'd break every every bone in my body. Yeah, it's crazy. You know, one of the things I want to talk about, I don't know about this. How many of you believe in alien life? I'm just curious. How many of you believe that alien life exists? Alien life mean UFOs. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. How many of you do? Wow. A lot of you do. Okay. Well, we know Mr. Producer. Now, Mr. Producer is a hybrid. So Mr. Producer is a hybrid. Now that means that he has alien blood and human blood. Many people don't know that about Mr. Producer, but I know it. I know about it. But listen to this. This is by Sarah Tulloch. This person says, I was abducted by aliens, and here are the signs that you might have been too. So Philip Kinsella is among those who claim to have been abducted by aliens, and he's revealed the signs that could indicate that you have been too, even if you have no memory of it. Well, tales of alien abductions are fairly common, especially in the West. As early in the 1960s, there have been reports of people being taken by extraterrestrials or Mr. Producer, usually during the night, often strange experiments only to be returned home unharmed. Now, among the most famous alleged abduction cases are those of New York housewife Linda Napolitano and British twin Philip Kinsella, both of whom claim to have been taken by aliens in the same year. So Linda made headlines with her abduction of the century when she said aliens beamed her up from Manhattan bedroom in November 1989. Her account was, by the way, supported by 23 people who supposedly saw her being lifted over the Brooklyn Bridge. In 2013, she told Vanity Fair, if I was hallucinating, then the eyewitnesses saw my hallucination. In 2022, her startling story was adapted into the popular Netflix show, The Manhattan Alien Abduction. Well, I'm going to check that out now. Well, anyway, while extraterrestrial life has yet been scientifically proven, Linda isn't the only alleged abductee to come forward with chilling details of encounters with beings from outer space. A British man, Philip, claimed that he was abducted by reptilian aliens in 1989 after being suddenly awakened at his Bedfordshire home in the middle of the night. Clairvoyant Philip describing being levitated and moved through his house before being strapped naked to a board, while he claims a probe was inserted into his body. Now, Philip spoke about the terrifying night, shared 6 eerie signs that could indicate that you have had an alien encounter without even realizing it. So when calling his first sighting of the alien figure, Philip told The Sun that image was the most raw and unforgettable. I will never forget their faces. They looked like dinosaurs, but they were reptilian, about 7 to 8 feet tall. Philip and his twin brother Ronald have had 4 unnerving UFO encounters, including capturing footage of 3 white hovering objects in 2016. Now, although Philip vividly remembers his alien abduction, he explained that most people's memories are supposedly wiped by extraterrestrial beings. One of the key indicators of abduction, Philip mentioned, was the presence of implants. He claims that aliens often leave small implants in humans about the size of a grain of rice. Although he doesn't know the purpose of the implant, he described it as being covered in organic tissue so that the body doesn't reject it. He says sometimes they're very tiny and they have a strange, hard structure, not metallic, but unusual. And Philip revealed that his implant, which had been in his body for 2 years, was located behind his ear. He offered tips on how to spot those potential implants, such as noticing itchy spot or specific problem area. He also claimed they could show up on x-rays. Well, that's interesting. Oh, that would be awesome, Mr. Producer. Now, Mr. Producer is going to ask Kinsellas if they would like to come up. That would be great on the presentation, on the show. That would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to watch that. That's really fascinating. So yeah, Linda Napolitano and a British twin, Philip Kinsella. So Mr. Producer is saying that he's going to try to contact Philip and maybe come on board and talk about his story. Well, that would be crazy. So his twin brother, Ronald, they said that they had this experience. And American actress Fran Drescher has also publicly spoken about her alleged abduction. In 2012, she claimed that both she and her producer husband, Peter Mark Jacobson, had been implanted with chips, noting that they both had identical scars in the same spot in their hands. And she shared this with Huffington Post, saying that we both have this scar. It's the exact same scar, the exact same spot. Philip also shared some physical symptoms he experienced after his alleged abduction, including frequent and severe nosebleeds. He said, I suffered profuse nosebleeds to my right nostril for 2 years after the incident, he recalled. Got to the point where it was so embarrassing, I could be sitting on the train and it would just start pouring. And doctors were considering cauterizing it. Cauterizing it. It's interesting because we spoke to Willie Windwalker Gibson, who's a shaman, and he has talked about his alleged abduction, as well as his wife. And they have also talked about that as well. So this would be a very interesting conversation to have with him. I would absolutely be very, very excited about. By the way, so in October, so I know we're only in May, but I'm going to be going on assignment from Miss Judy Ann, who serves as, when I do these documentaries, she kind of serves as the executive producer, taking care of all the ins and outs of it, the expenses, it's not cheap. So in October, I'm going to be going to Los Angeles, and we are going to be also filming at the Queen Mary. We will also I will be staying at the haunted, I think it's room 354, the most haunted room in the Queen Mary. And not only that, but I will be airing the show live in Queen Mary on Friday night. So we will be doing that, and that's going to be a pretty amazing thing. I am working on a documentary now on the Alcatraz Museum that I went to in Pigeon Forge. Now, that was absolutely a phenomenal experience. Really, the artifacts that they have there was just mind-blowing to me. It didn't have a whole lot to do with Alcatraz so much as it had more to do with crime and artifacts from crime scenes. So I'm going to be doing that documentary. It's going to take a while to put that together because there's so much. But let me tell you this. I was shocked when they had the black leather jacket of John Wayne Gacy that he wore when he was arrested. And they have two of his clown outfits at this museum. And so I'm going to put all that together. I'm going to put this documentary together. I was able to see the Bronco Museum, the Bronco vehicle, O.J. Simpson. When they were going down the expressway, they had the Bronco. They also had, oh my goodness, Ted Bundy's Beetle, Volkswagen Beetle that he used for a very nefarious, not the one he stole, but the one he actually used and owned. They had that. They had the Bonnie and Clyde vehicle. Really, honestly, this is going to be an amazing documentary. The items that they had, just mind-blowing. So I am working on that documentary, and I'm hoping that you will enjoy that tremendously, because I want to certainly share that with you guys. But there we go. For those of you who are listening to this on podcast, I'm going to say good night to you and have a beautiful evening. So let me close this out for everybody on podcast. Remember, friends, we are going to be live on tonight. So we go live at 9:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our fun-filled, exciting night prayer. So please join us for that. I'm just going to put this up. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to publish right now. Let's see. Let me do this 1 second. That's a bit. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to upload this for podcast so that you guys can have it. Okay. And I'll do this. I'll type this in just a second. There we go. All right. So don't forget, everybody, we haven't decided about Saturday. Normally we have open mic night, but if I'm gonna go live on Saturday, it's just gonna be a chill out night. Nothing planned, nothing. We're just gonna chill. That's it. And then Sunday, of course, we have Bible study. But don't forget, tonight in 1 hour, we're gonna come right back on air for our night prayer. My friends, those of you on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble, and KGRADB Radio, remember I tell you, your value does not decrease based on a troll's inability or refusal to see your worth. You are priceless, and don't let them tell you or convince you otherwise. We'll see you guys next week.